let's talk about America. Let's talk
Okay.
about just our country. In American society, I personally think that sex is still a taboo subject. Like, I know that we are in the 21st century. I know that people are a lot freer and open to talk about it, but it seems like it's still something that people are kind of, you know, I almost feel like religion has kind of made it this taboo thing when it doesn't have to be.
Well, here's this. I was actually having a conversation I was talking about the show that we're having right now. And I was talking with a brother who we both know. I'm not going to name him, but he was shocked that I was having a conversation with my mother about her sex life and my sex life with these, quote, random strangers, as far as my mom's concerned, on the internet. And he could not fathom. At first, he thought that because he couldn't see who I was talking to, he thought I was talking to my wife. And he was like, "That's your mom? No way, dude. How could you possibly be talking?" I was like, "Man, you got to calm down and see this is part of the problem. We need to normalize talking about sex. It's not something that we should be shunned or something that we need to be ashamed or embarrassed about." I mean, we weren't even getting into the nitty gritty. Of course, I'm not going to get into the real nitty and gritty when I'm having a sex talk with my mom. Okay. But it's perfectly fine to acknowledge that strange or amazing or common sexual experiences happen and to talk about those generally. We were having a great conversation, but this guy was just astounded that I was even able to do something like that with my mom. So that to me really speaks volumes to where he's coming from. And I can almost assuredly say that it's because of his religious position. He's actually one of the most sexually conservative religious people I've ever met in my life. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to promote the guy, but I think we all know who I mean when I say missionary only. That is allegedly this guy's whole life.
Yeah.
He is committed himself to performing just one act when having sex. And to me, that is horrible. That is one of the hugest atrocities that religion has done to this poor man, was limit him in this way. Sex is a wonderful experience to enjoy and behold and have, and to limit yourself for no other reason than because you're afraid. That's ultimately the reason he gave for that. Was he couldn't even tell me whether or not it was actually a sin to have sex that wasn't missionary only. He just wasn't quite sure, so he wasn't going to take the chance. So he's just throwing his sex life out the window for the rest of his life on a hunch.
Yeah, you know, this whole idea of sin and what this I feel like religion has kind of done that, just making it sound like it's a bad thing, like it's a dirty thing, a secret thing that should be avoided and can only be done in one context, in one way. It just seems to me that religions, and maybe not all religions, but certainly Western religion, we think the monotheistic religions of, you know, Abraham, the thing that's popular in our country as religion, they all look at sex, at least sex outside of marriage.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's the monogamy thing that really hammers it down, for as far as I can tell from the religious perspective. Now, there are secularists that could probably make similar arguments, but by and large, this does come from the religious communities. This idea that monogamy is front and foremost when it comes to the family life.
And you don't believe in monogamy yourself, right, Caleb? I mean, you believe it exists, and I'm sure you believe it for other people, but do you want to talk?
Okay, sure. I think by and large, I think monogamy is perfectly fine, obviously, and I think it works well for plenty of people. I don't think that we're by nature meant to only have one partner for our entire lives. I think that if you go back far enough, we probably had more of like a harem system, realistically. Not to say that that's better, but those are our lowly origins, and so we have certain urges and drives and ways of thinking. And I myself, as you had mentioned, we're not. My wife and I are not entirely monogamous. We do participate in the swinger lifestyle. It's not something that we do frequently.
Swingers, but for shame.
For shame. Yeah. And once you admit that, then people start thinking, "Oh my God, they're swingers. I wonder how many people they've had sex with." Because apparently, the number of people that you have sex with is crucial. That number determines how gross you are.
Yeah, from a certain perspective, it does. Certainly to the people who view, you know, being in the swinger lifestyle. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
I almost don't like using lifestyle because I feel
that's
like,
actually the swinger clubs that we used to
yeah.
go to. They're actually called lifestyle clubs.
So anyone looking at it from the perspective of that being this horrible thing, because which I don't really know why. I mean, if you have that agreement with your partner, then why is it anyone else's business? I don't know. To me, it sounds like it has to do with the influence of religion. I certainly have no room to judge anyone else who's being judged by religion as a bisexual man who's in a gay marriage. You know, it doesn't matter how often I have sex or with whom. Just the fact that I'm not married to a woman having sex with a woman is problematic from a religious standpoint. So,
are you and your partner monogamous?
We are monogamish. is a word that I stole from someone else, and you know, that is to say we're not swingers, you know, but we have been with other people. We've invited other people into situations before, and you know, he's been with other people. I've been with other people. Not very many though, but we're very open and honest about what we're interested in, what we're curious about, what we want to do, and I feel like that has completely eliminated this obstacle of jealousy in our relationship. And so, again, for us, it works. For some people, it might not, and I understand that, but there's no judgment for me, you know, towards you because you attend swinging situations, and there's no judgment for me against other people who believe in monogamy. I mean, to each his own, right?
That's our advantage, but other people sit there and wonder how they can't be judging. Like, what I've had conversations where I have admitted that, you know, we participated in this swinger lifestyle, and the idea that I would let another man have sex with my wife it just did not compute for them. They're like, how could you not be mad? How could you not go radically insane? I mean, this idea that jealousy should consume all and take over at that moment is very powerful for some people. And I get the urge. Like I said, I think there's something about that inherently. You know, you kind of want to protect what's yours and, you know, keep the harem to yourself, if you will. But at the same time, I think it's also important to recognize that that is a bias. I was hoping to bring up the idea, actually, that we can have internal bias against certain things and just let it be.
You know, Caleb, you talked about biases, and we're just a couple of guys, and you know, guys are perceived as having a bias towards sex. So I would like to get a woman's perspective on this, and fortunately we have a great guest who might be able to provide us with a woman's perspective. I'm going to bring her in now. Her name is Laura Magee, and she is an atheist YouTuber who has her own channel called Unapologetically Me. So Laura,
hello,
welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
How about that? You know, I mean, look, we're just a couple of guys, and guys are horny, and they don't care about love. They just care about sex. And so, of course, we're totally biased.
You know how much I disagree with that? Like, ardently disagree with that. No, I think guys are just as emotional and just as sensitive as women. I think there's a lot of cultural stigma around guys being uncaring or just caring about sex. And certainly that's reinforced, right? But man, don't sell yourself short. Like, don't perpetuate that stereotype shit.
Yeah. So what do you think about all of this? What do you think about sex and sexuality being taboo? Do you think it's influenced by religion, or does it come from someplace else? Because it seems different in different cultures. It doesn't seem equally taboo everywhere, but it certainly seems to be more taboo the more religious the culture is. So how do you feel about that?
And yeah, I agree. And it depends on what the religion is. And there is a fine line that I need to draw in looking at, like, say, Western cultures, where even in a secular society, it's hard to know exactly how much control religion had over the formation of those secular beliefs. So things like monogamy is still very heavily practiced, even in atheist populations in the United States. Mm-hmm. But the idea of monogamy still came from the Judeo-Christian tradition, and it's not the only marriage form, and it's not even necessarily the best or the most popular form of marriage.
So you would agree with Caleb then that monogamy may not necessarily be the best thing for everybody.
I think it's a relationship model. I don't think it's the best relationship model for everyone. I certainly think that in this culture, the way that people are raised, it is the best model for most people because they are not trained how to handle things like interest in multiple people, jealousy, splitting up their time, what it means to have attractions or close relationships with other people. We are taught to see that as being betrayal, lying, like cheating, and in most cases it is because they keep it secret. But people are not taught how to handle that in an open, communicative, healthy way. So yeah, in American culture today, I would say, unless we get better education going, it is the most healthy model for most people to fall back on until they learn some mechanisms. I don't know if that makes sense. Like Caleb's got some great tools in his toolbox. Sounds like you do too, for sharing affection and sharing physical attention. Not everybody does.
Yeah, and that's funny to me because you mentioned education, and unless our education improves, but it almost seems like Americans, I should say Western society, because it's not just America, but it almost seems like we are indoctrinated not specifically into a religion, but into a culture that teaches us about that monogamy is the standard model. You know, I mean, I remember growing up going to public school where, you know, they talk about the mommy and the daddy, you know, and everything is the nuclear family, and that's presented as the normative model. Everything is heteronormative, everything is monogamous normative. I don't know.
It's not just presented as normative, it's presented as appropriate or the best. So it's presented as you need a single family, mom and dad. If you have any more than that, it's dysfunctional. If you have any less than that, it's dysfunctional. And so they're not taught that there are all these other models, including single parents, right, that work, and including maybe households where it's like one parent and a grandparent or an aunt or uncle helping raise the child, right? You're pretty much taught that anything outside of the mommy-daddy dynamic is it's a broken household or it's dysfunctional.